Good morning and a warm welcome to the webinar. We will be getting going in just a few minutes. It's a great pleasure to see all of you here. We'll just wait for perhaps a few more people to join in, and then we'll be getting started.
Hello.
All right, good. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Mrs. Hyacinth. It's Wells Hyacinth. It's a great pleasure to have you here. We are ready to go, I think. So just a few words, administrative words from my side. And then I will hand over to Nadia Wells Hyacinth to make some welcoming and opening remarks. So firstly, just on the administrative side, we are recording the webinar, so we will be able to make it available to you afterwards for everyone that is registered. So just be aware that that's being recorded. We also have and welcome questions. We will try and address any questions that you have. Feel free to write those questions through the chat function, which is on the right side of your screen. You can write them through the normal chat or through the questions part of this of the site. So we very much welcome your participation and these questions here. So we're going to be together for the next around 40 minutes, where we will be able to describe to you the training opportunity that is here and the support related to the development of proposals for climate finance, and in particular for the Green Climate Fund. To get started, we will have some welcoming remarks, and then we'll provide a snapshot of the Green Climate Fund, how it works, just the main elements of what the Green Climate Fund funds, and then give an outline of the training, the objectives, how the training will be delivered, and the timeline. And then the application process. If you would like to participate in this training, we are inviting you to submit a short project outline of the project idea that you have, and we'll explain the eligibility criteria for that. And then we'll have some time for questions and answers. If we don't address questions while we're presenting, then we'll be able to address them at the end. So that's the plan. Without any further ado, I would like to invite Nadia Wells Hyacinth. Very warm welcome to you to just say some opening words here. Nadia comes from the NDA, but if you could give us some insight into the work you do as the NDA and say some opening remarks for the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and good day to all. I would like to welcome all of you to this introductory webinar for the training program on the access to finance, climate finance for Saint Lucia. First of all, I would like to apologize on behalf of Mr. Claudius Emmanuel, our permanent secretary, who was called to an urgent meeting a few minutes before this training, before the webinar started. So Mr. Emmanuel had some prepared remarks, which I will just read through very briefly. I would first like to say a few words on the importance of this training program in the context of St. Lucia's engagement with the Green Climate Fund. As a national designated authority for St. Lucia, the Department of Economic Development serves as the interface between St. Lucia and the Green Climate Fund. In that capacity, the department aims to advance projects and proposals that contribute to achieving a climate-resilient future for St. Lucia. In so doing, unlocking international climate finance is a major priority. The GCF has been established specifically to provide financial support to countries like St. Lucia to achieve climate resilience. Therefore, a critical component of our second readiness program is dedicated to improving our capacity to access climate financing for our developments. For many, accessing development financing or green climate financing appears to be a daunting task. But on the flip side, we understand there is tremendous effort that is required to develop a winning proposal. So I encourage you to actually participate, to challenge yourselves as you embark on this training. And before I allow the team from ECHO to continue, I think many of you would be aware and been accustomed to working in this virtual space. Many of you would have transitioned to working remotely over the last year and therefore are better placed for the virtual learning experience. I am told that the training program has been tailored for our audience, so I encourage you to make the most of this opportunity, engage with the trainers and your fellow participants as we build this community of practitioners in accessing climate financing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we really do look forward to working with you and all the participants of the training over the coming months. It's an exciting opportunity to do this. We have built up some experience in working in this virtual setting, as you have mentioned there, and are able to provide a really dynamic training that will really respond, we hope, to your needs, and your active participation is very welcome in this. All right, so I would now like to make a few comments about the Green Climate Fund and give you a snapshot of what the Green Climate Fund is about. I just wanted to double check. We've received here a question. Tracy Dulcie has written, "Is Streamer loaded for anyone?" I just wanted, if you could give us a bit of clarity in terms of what that question is, be very welcome, and we'll try and address it. All right, so the Green Climate Fund is an international fund with the secretariat based in Korea, in an area just outside Seoul in Korea, in South Korea. And it has the objective of making a significant and ambitious contribution to the global efforts towards attaining the goals related to combating climate change. Now, it is part of international community's contribution to the $100 billion of climate finance per year, those flows that were promised in really sessions of the UN Framework Convention of Climate Change. It has this idea, this vision of paradigm shift, of really a step change or a transformational change to bring about a low emission, climate resilient future. So this word here, paradigm shift, that I'm just underlining, is really one of those core elements of Green Climate Fund. And it's going to be something that we'll talk about throughout this little webinar and through the training. What does that mean, and how do you make your project and design a project that delivers that type of change? And the Green Climate Fund targets investments for transformational impact. This transformational impact is part of this idea of paradigm shift, and is, as I said, the theme that we'll come back to very frequently through the session. The approach of GCF really is to finance those projects that deliver this paradigm shift, and seeking a balance between the national priorities, so the priorities that are really there for you and for the people in Saint Lucia, and the potential to deliver concrete climate benefits. It's really wanting to be a concrete difference that is made in the countries in which projects are implemented. And it's got to seek that sort of balance between those priorities, cost considerations, and the opportunity to develop co-benefits. The idea of co-benefits for GCF have to do with sustainable development, have to do with improving livelihoods that are associated with the climate change that is brought about. So the other element that is important here is that one of the targets for the Green Climate Fund, particularly to deliver this strategic vision, is the partnership with the private sector. So private sector projects are strongly encouraged within the Green Climate Fund's paradigm, the way it works. So that's the first element there. The other part here is to talk about the portfolio of the Green Climate Fund. Now, these words, mitigation and adaptation, SIDS, LDCs, Africa, other developing countries, these aspects, this is a lot of terminology that has to do with the Green Climate Fund. And within the training, we will define each of these and give you real insight into what these elements mean. You may be already very familiar with those elements that are there. So it's something that we would want to understand what your needs are in terms of understanding the content, and be able to adjust the training to your particular needs. Mitigation projects, of course, are those that are reducing emissions. So it aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I'll give you some examples of the type of projects that GCF funds there. And adaptation projects aim to increase resilience of vulnerable people and communities. So this is all about bringing an increase to resilience. Excuse my spelling. All right, so we're looking at increasing resilience through adaptation projects. And the GCF has a target. They try and make a balance between projects that are targeting SIDS, LDCs, and Africa. And Saint Lucia is one of those SIDS. It's a small island developing state. So the projects that GCF has a target for 50% of the adaptation funded projects to be in the small island developing states like Saint Lucia. So that's the element of the SIDS element there. And the type of projects that GCF funds are given then on the next slide. That you can see here as GCF's overall strategic impact. It's delivered through these greenhouse gas reducing projects, which you can see on this side, and the adaptation projects, which you can see on that side. And the reduced emissions fall into 4 broad categories. Firstly, energy generation access. Secondly, buildings, cities, industries, and appliances. Transport projects, and forest and land use projects. So within the mitigation sphere of activities that GCF will fund, there are these 4 broad categories or result impact areas, as GCF calls them. Within adaptation, which is aiming to increase resilience of communities, individuals and communities, we see also 4 areas. Firstly, health, food and water security. Secondly, improving the resilience of infrastructure and the built environment. So obviously this is connected in some way with cities, with infrastructure that is bringing economic and social benefits to people. Thirdly, improving livelihoods of people and communities. And finally, there's a strong focus within the GCF for projects that address ecosystems and ecosystem services. So those areas. And you can find projects that GCF funds that are cross-cutting, for example, that address reducing emissions for buildings and cities, perhaps with health, food and water security. This is called a cross-cutting project. And GCF can fund those types of projects that are combinations of these strategic impact areas. All right, so that is the elements of GCF strategic impact. Now, when we just move forward into the next element, give me 1 second here, to talk about the training that will really be delivered. This training aims to raise awareness on the climate finance opportunities here in Saint Lucia, to provide the technical but also hands-on guidance about how to write project concept notes for the GCF, to put forward the proposals and to design those relevant operational objectives. So the training has got a number of objectives really to enhance the linkages between climate finance proposals and national climate strategies. And it's within strategies such as the NDC and the NAP. These are documents that have been prepared within Saint Lucia through stakeholder consultation. So we are going to, through the training, enhance the understanding of those linkages. We'll also build knowledge around the climate finance architecture. How does it actually work? Not just for the GCF, but for other climate finance funds. How does it work? What is the structure of that, and what is the process by which you're able to apply for projects? And another important aspect of your project design and the training that we're delivering is to look at identifying project risks and how to address them. Funders that fund these sorts of projects are very keen to have projects that are bringing about a transformational impact, but minimize the risks of the project failing, of course, because that's talking about value for money of the funds. We will aim through the training to improve the technical know-how on project design, and so that we can develop all the participants' skills and experience with developing high-quality funding proposals. And finally, in terms of the overall learning objectives for this training, is to showcase possible private sector finance opportunities. We mentioned that that's one of the priorities for this. Now, in terms of trainers, one of the trainers will be me. I have about around 21 years of experience in climate finance and project formulation and designing projects. I've been involved in designing about 15 GCF projects over the past few years. So have a track record in that sort of thing. But one of the areas that I particularly enjoy working in is to do with training and capacity building and this type of seminar. And our other trainer will be Lily, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes. And she is a climate adaptation finance specialist with very extensive experience in developing and designing GCF projects and other climate finance instruments and building capacity. And one of Lily's specializations is in this ecosystems services area, as well as many other very relevant topics, particularly in the adaptation space. The form of the training will be through webinar system. We will probably make use of a Zoom webinar or something like that. We'll be recording the training. The training will include breakout groups with hands-on exercises, working in those groups, developing and helping to develop real concrete concept notes and project ideas. And it will be remote. Unfortunately, at the moment, we are unable to travel to St. Lucia, so we will work that remotely. But over the last 2-3 months, we've worked with people from the region, and we've been doing training in Dominica most recently, and that is ongoing as well. And also in quite a number of other countries, we've got active training in Indonesia. So this sort of remote coaching, being able to look at your concept note, give you feedback, direct feedback on that, will be part of this ongoing training. All right, so one of the other practical details has to do with the timing. They're going to be 3 training sessions. They're made up, each of them, of 4 half days. So 4 half days for training session 1, 4 half days for the session 2, and 4 for the session 3, over a period from September until March 2022. So this will give you a chance to take the project ideas that you bring forward now and develop them and get feedback and really bespoke support related to those project ideas. We're here to help you and guide you through the process of putting forward a project idea. And it should be possible by the end of the training to have a well-developed project that is ready to be submitted as a concept to the GCF. So that's the support that we will give. There will be this online training with, as I said, quizzes and breakout groups and discussions and things like that. But it'll also be supported with an office hours type of approach where you can approach us with very specific questions that you have, and we can talk through one-on-one about the elements of the project idea. That's the sort of office hours possibility. So we're now going to move on to the application process, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lily to just guide us through that and how that will work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grant, and good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here. Could you just confirm that you can hear me well, please? Maybe in the chat, just to make sure that my microphone is well adjusted. Okay. Oh, great. Perfect. So, well, if what Grant was just sharing with you motivates you to participate in the training, then we have, and you have received probably an invitation with outlining what is the process for application to the training. It is, we have made an easy process and mostly to motivate and attract participation. Grant, maybe you can go on the next slide. So yes, if you would like to participate, you would need first to go through the organizational eligibility check, then think about the project idea on climate change that you would like to develop and implement. Then you would need to go through a project idea eligibility check just to check whether it corresponds to some of those results areas that Grant was mentioning under the GCF approach, but also some other aspects. To fill in the project idea template with the required information, this is the template that we have shared, or colleagues from the NDA has shared, including few key aspects describing the project, what would be its objective, whether it's mitigation or adaptation project, or maybe a cross-cutting project. How do you consider that it's going to achieve its objectives for adaptation or mitigation? With whom would you think that you can work and implement the project? What do you think could be the estimated budget, and so on? And then Once you have the template filled in, then to send us your project idea with a cover letter from your organization by the 16th of August on these two emails that you can see. Next one, please. Here, I just wanted to go through specifically the organizational eligibility check and the project eligibility check, just to make sure whether there might be any questions arising from this and we can discuss. So the applicant or lead organization should be an entity legally registered in Saint Lucia and authorized to conduct all activities part of the project, of the proposed project. As well, the applicant needs to demonstrate a proven track record in developing, managing, implementing, and monitoring climate change projects, at least a total of 3 years. So this is more of understanding the readiness of the organization to deliver climate change projects, and this is one of the prerequisites for accessing funds under the GCF. Thank you, Grant. And then the project idea eligibility check. So first, you would need to check whether your project idea meets Saint Lucia's thematic priorities for climate mitigation and adaptation, as outlined in the National Determined Contributions, NDCs, and National Adaptation Plan of the country. So this is something that you might need to get acquainted with. It's, as Grant mentioned, we would go in more details during the training. And if maybe your project idea might need some adjustment just to provide a more direct interlinkage with those strategic documents, then we can do this throughout the training. The project also needs to bring about real reductions in greenhouse gas emissions or improved climate resilience. So it is important here, and what Grant also mentioned, these are 4 results areas in mitigation and 4 results areas in adaptation, according to GCF guidelines. So your project idea would need to demonstrate or provide information how exactly the activities or the outcomes you are planning are achieving those or are aligned with those results areas under mitigation and climate resilience. As well, the project should aim on more broader objectives, so not only targeting activities such as study, research and mapping, or capacity building program, or it can be combined, the combination of both activities, but also consider some maybe more concrete measures that might be introduction of innovative technology for mitigation or adaptation, or even some specific aspects regarding infrastructure. And well, GCF has 3 ranges of projects. So it has micro projects, which are for about $1 million US, and then it has small and medium and large projects, which is above $1 million US. So we would like to for you to think of a scope and scale of a project that would be at least $1 million US with the budget. So this is yes, one last aspect of the project idea eligibility check. And well, this is from our side, I would say. We're happy to address any comments or any questions you might have regarding the application process or the training as such. Please either write us in the chat, or you can. Some of you might be able also to have your questions with voice. So maybe, Grant, if there is anything else you would like to add before opening the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, well, let's just welcome questions, comments. If you're on the stage, you could unmute and ask a question verbally, but also just type it into the chat. While you're posting your comment, I just thought it would be good to make a very small clarification around the size of projects that GCF funds. it's useful to just understand those categories. And I'll just write it down over here just so that you can see how that is structured. So firstly, GCF funds projects that are micro projects, exactly as Lily was describing. And those projects have a combined total project size as less than $10 million US. So this is big. You saw in our criteria, we've talked about 1 million as being the minimum. If you have a project that's just 1 million, overall, it's going to be too small for GCF funding, unless it's either bundled with other projects in some way, or it's structured in a way that we can see a path to making it bigger. Because the smallest GCF projects that we've ever seen funded have had around $8 million US overall budget. So when we talk about 1 million, I just wanted to make it clear that, in fact, it's bigger than 1 million really that we are looking for. If you have an idea and you come up with an idea that it's around 1 million, then we can talk with you and explore with you how that could be turned into a bigger project, $5, $6, $7, $8 million type of project. So we'll be happy to work with you on that. The next size under micro, 10 million, as you can see, that's big, but it's small for GCF. The next one is just called small, and then of course medium. And the range for small one is, of course, between 10 million up until 50 million. Medium projects go from 50 million up to 250 million. And then there are large projects, which are often large investment projects or funds that are created, which have an overall funding size of more than $250 million. So it's big. And your project idea, you need to see it and think of it, firstly, from your organization, the capacity of the organization, understanding maybe you'll need to partner with someone, but also in terms of the project scale that it delivers. Lily said we want to have either greenhouse gas emission reductions or we want to have improved resilience. And improved resilience is the idea of the number of beneficiaries, how many people will benefit from the particular project. I see Bushnu, Tulsi, you've got a question there. I can try and invite you onto the stage, but if that doesn't work, then I would welcome if you would be able to type it. Okay, you've been invited onto the stage. Thank you, whoever did that. Yeah. Hello, Vishnu. Feel free to ask.
Yeah. Good morning. And if you're in South Korea, probably good night.
Yeah, I'm in London, and Lily's in Central Europe.
Okay. All right. Hi. Yeah. And thanks for this presentation. It's extremely useful. We were invited by the NDA to participate in this exercise today and the upcoming training, and to submit a concept note, which we are working on.
Yes.
But in thinking about it, it is appearing what I will call fragmented. The theme is climate resilience, of course, coastal climate resilience, and we are looking at protection of some key national assets. We did do a study in 2009 that linked what is happening to climate change. So that study is there to reference. And we are in November of this year, we will be initiating a study along the southeast coast to look at the causes for coastal erosion. And coming out and recommendations, both hard and soft, interventions to try and stop and, if possible, reverse the erosion that's taking place along the southeast coast. The problem is that that study will be done in November. And so we don't know right now what the recommendations will be. But we would very much like to include in the proposal we're putting some of the mitigation, the adaptation, recommendations that will come out of that. So I'm trying to get a sense of the length of this process, and will there be time if we flag this as our intention in our concept note, that when the process of going from concept note to a full proposal, get a sense of the timeline so that we could bring those interventions into the proposal, but just flag it in the concept note. Is that an acceptable approach?
Yes, definitely. Lily, would you like to respond, or shall I jump into this one? So I'll start off, and Lily, you can add in some details there. So in terms of the timeline and the process, firstly, we go from here where we are now, yeah, and then there is the process of developing the concept note. That concept note, whoops, I did a G instead of a C, just to quickly adjust this. That concept note is going to be one which is which might take you quite a long time to develop, and once it's submitted, it needs to be submitted by an accredited entity. So this we call an AE, accredited entity. So there'll be a process of finding that accredited entity. Unless you come from an accredited entity, you'll need to build that relationship for the submission. And we see that process here is normally taking around maybe even at least 6-month period between here to submission. So from that perspective, the timing is good. You're doing work in November that brings out insights and information that you can use. Once the concept note is submitted to the GCF, there could be a number of rounds of discussion that take place around that. If they like the idea, the accredited entity has submitted that idea and they like that idea, it is possible to apply for what is called, I'll just put the acronym here, but that is Project Preparation Facility Funding. So that type of funding can be applied for, and then starts the process. If you receive that funding, it can be quite a lot of money to do additional studies and feasibility studies, detailed planning of the proposal. That process might well take at least another 6 months in the process, more likely 1 year. I was speaking to, I suppose in a way, colleagues of yours, but on the opposite side of the planet, in Micronesia just recently. And from this point up until the funding proposal was a bit more than 1 year for them to develop. So we're looking at, from where we are now to actually fund, I would say, in an optimistic sense, that is the end of 2022. That is assuming a smooth process without obstacles and hurdles along the way. So the time is a long one and the process is a challenging one, but it could, of course, be very rewarding as well.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things we'll need to do is to find an accredited entity. Is the NDA or NDA channel for this?
It could well be. I can't make promises on the NDA side, but it is possible for an NDA to submit a project to the GCF themselves with a request that the process of identifying an NDA is ongoing. But there are also, one can, during the training, we'll be able to provide some support in connection with NDAs. And one of the very important regional NDAs, not NDA, one of the very important regional accredited entities is the 5Cs, which is actually the accredited entity that is supporting this training. So is a very important contributor, potential accredited entity with whom you could partner on this project, depending on their priorities and
okay, so all right, thanks for that. Sorry for holding the microphone, but I have one sort of related question. the organization I work for, the Saint Lucia National Trust, is giving consideration to becoming an accredited entity.
Right.
As an accredited entity, can we submit a proposal in which we are also a direct beneficiary of the project funds?
Yes, it is possible, especially if it's a direct access entity, or which is either regional or country-based. I didn't actually catch the name of the organization, but if you're accredited in that form, then it is certainly possible to directly implement the project activities. If it's an international accredited entity, then GCF encourages those entities to work with executing entities in the country. But yeah, definitely. If you become accredited, there's also a process that might last a year, depending on the stage where you're at. There's this whole year-long process to becoming accredited. But it is potentially viable that you become accredited in the same board meeting as the approval of the project. So that could also be an opportunity.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks for that. We are just thinking about it, and the answer you gave was one of the killer conditions, because if your answer was no, then we would not have been interested.
Yeah, it's a definite yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Lily.
Grant, sorry, could I just add, Vishnu, it is nice meeting you. I just wanted to add here that actually, now that you're mentioning that you're in this process, the idea of the training is that you would be working with your team and with our support on the different sections of the concept node. And also, I think it comes very much timely, because we will be able to guide you for the design of your upcoming research, because GCF has sometimes some very specific requirements for data in order to justify climate-related impacts. So we might be able, just before you starting your research on coastal erosion, we can guide you with some key aspects that GCF might want to see, which you will be able to timely include in the research.
Okay, well, thank you for that. There is someone, I'm doing this call from my home, and there's someone at my gate. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to clarify or would like further details on? And you're welcome to put them into the chat. If there aren't anything, if there isn't anything more, if there is, just write yes or something, and we won't bring it to a close. If there are no other questions, I think we can call it a day. So just to remind you about the timeline that and the application process that Lily outlined. Perhaps is good. I put that onto the screen now. Lily, would you like to say some final words, and we'll bring it to close?
Thank you, Grant. From my side, thank you very much for your participation, and we're waiting for your applications. If you have any questions that might arise during following those steps for the application, please do not hesitate to write me directly. You can see my email. It's lily@equiltdgroup.com. So I'm happy to support you in this. Please don't hesitate on that. Or even, yes, any additional questions you might have regarding the training as well. So we are available to respond.
Just briefly, Lily, just to tell us about this project idea template. About how long are we expecting a proposal?
Oh, yes. Yes, we are expecting not more than a page, maybe maximum a page and a half. So it is just a very brief outlining of your idea, and how do you think that it aligns with the nationally determined contributions and the national adaptation plan for the country, and yes, who do you think would be key partners, and what are the expected results that you consider your project aims to achieve. So yes, we are happy to receive a project idea at 1 page, or if you have much more to describe, please feel free to make it longer, but it is not required to have any long description of the project idea.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Deepa Girdari, you asked about the template and how you get hold of it. One route will certainly be through after this webinar, we have all your email addresses, and we will send you this recording, a link to this recording, plus the idea template that is there. Yes, thank you. Nadia, you've clarified it's been emailed to your ministry and it'll be sent out as well. Okay. Fantastic. Well, a big thank you from my side to the NDA. It's been great pleasure to participate with you on this webinar, and thank you to 5Cs as well, and to all of you for participating. Lily, I will give you the final words and then we will close the webinar. We'll probably keep the chat open for a little bit in case you have some additional questions, which we can just write about. But otherwise, we look forward to receiving those project ideas.
Thank you very much, Grant. I wanted just to ask, maybe Nadia would like to say closing remarks, or yes, I think I think she wrote it in chat. Yes. Also from our side, we are very excited to have this opportunity and to work with you and your colleagues on the preparation of great project ideas. So yes, thank you very much for your attention, and we hope to have the opportunity to work much more in the next months with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.